Hi everyone. In this video I'll continue talking about my experiences when I was on the trip to Europe, when I went to Belgium and Spain, and what I have observed in terms of the different environments and how it influenced how people would interact with Caesar, what kind of environment it is for a child to grow up in, what is possible, what isn't possible, what becomes difficult, what becomes easy. And in this video, I'd like to look a bit more at the story behind each environment. Because I explained and described in the previous video what I've observed as being different in terms of the farm environment where Caesar grew up in, where we live, and the environment in Belgium, a house in a town where it's cold outside and people like things to be neat and for the child to adjust to the adult. And then Spain, where children were very much welcomed and interacted with. So let's start with Spain, because I find it to be an easy one to explain. So Spain, we were in a town which was a tourist area. Like I said in the previous video, it was mostly people on holiday and pensioners who stayed there. And of course, it was by the beach, so the environment is usually seen as a place where people can relax and enjoy themselves. And that was also the starting point for every person who was there. People who would walk outside, go for strolls, ride their bike, walk their dogs, be on the playgrounds. It was to relax and have fun, to enjoy themselves. So that starting point, obviously, if you look at the people that were there, people on holiday and pensioners, what they have in common is that they are not stressed about work. Work is not a part of the equation in that scenario, because if you're on a holiday, you're not going to work every day. You're simply on a holiday. You have time for yourself, for your family, to explore, to experience things, to let life surprise you, so to speak. And for pensioners, same thing. They have done the work. They put in years and years of labor, and now they want to just enjoy themselves, relax, have fun. So that's what was very noticeable in terms of how the people were when we would go out for walks or go to the beach and play around. They were very relaxed. They took their time. They strolled very slowly, walked their dogs, did their own thing, and they weren't closed off. They weren't thinking or worrying about anything. They weren't rushing from one place to the next. They were just walking, and they kept their eyes open, and they would look at other people, and they would smile, and they would interact, because there was nothing going on in here that was distracting them. They were present. So when Caesar was walking around with us, people would notice him, and people thought it was awesome how he was behaving and how he was expressing himself, and they supported it. It's like because I can contrast it with how people were in Belgium, where we weren't, it was a normal town. It was not a holiday period. Most people were working. So when they would go outside, they would mostly be walking from one place to the next. It's like they were in a certain rhythm inside themselves, and they were very closed off. They wouldn't really look around. They wouldn't walk and stroll around. They would go from here to there, need to get there. And while they were doing that, they were thinking about all kinds of stuff. I mean, they were not present in the sense that they could notice something and immediately interact with it. They would go like, oh, hey. That was the kind of reactions that you would get. If you would actually talk to someone, suddenly they would be like, oh, you're here as well, So that was a very big difference. And so it's fascinating that it comes down to one thing, which is money. I mean, if you don't have to stress and worry and go through hoops to make sure you have enough money, because what is a job? A job is, if a job stresses you out, then it's money stressing you out. You want to do good at your job. You want to make sure everything is right, because you need that money. You need that money to survive. When you're on a holiday, the money was already earned. You're not engaging in any activity to get money. You earned the money, now you're spending it. It's the fun part of working. Same with pensioners. You're not stressing about money when you're pensioned. Maybe more and more that is the case, but in terms of where we were, everyone was quite relaxed and enjoying themselves. And there was, which is also important to mention, there were actually a lot of facilities for people who were retired. I mean, there was playgrounds for the elderly, which were not so much, slides and things like that, but like fitness equipment made for them, which they could find every so many kilometers, and they could just do some exercise with their arm here, do some twists over there, so it was like a support for them to stay fit and enjoy their bodies and support their bodies and be healthy. Of course, all the walkways that were there, even if you look at just the pavements, if you have the walkway and then you have to cross the street, the walkway is usually a bit higher than the street. Now, where we were in Spain, there was always a nice gradual change, so that someone in a wheelchair can easily, cross the street by themselves. Whereas, and same for strollers, someone with a stroller can easily just stroll their child from the walkway onto the road and back on the walkway, because it's always a gradual change, like a slope. Whereas in Belgium, it was often, here's the walkway, down, there's a street, now I have to get back on the walkway. So a person in a wheelchair, an electric wheelchair, can't move himself from one place to the next by himself. He needs someone to push him up. So those small points even make such a big difference. I mean, in Spain, there was people in electric wheelchairs who could go everywhere just because of that one point of consideration. Now, of course, I can't say for sure, but it's a point that needs to be considered, of course, is that it is a tourist area. I can't say that they're doing it out of the goodwill of their heart, considering these things, but they know that those are the kinds of people who will spend their time at the beach, renting apartments or living there. People on holiday with children and the elderly, so the provisions are there to attract those people partially. That would be common sense deduction, unfortunately. But it's definitely something that was not present at all in Belgium. It's like everything was made for the working class family, everything was made for the businessman, everything was made for people to work from 9 to 5 and then be at home. So if you look at who people are in Spain and who people are in Belgium, it's a totally different story. And what I found distinct about Belgium as well, apart from the rushing and the need for money and therefore not being aware of anything and not really being present, was the importance of presenting yourself as someone who is well off, which is also related to money. It was a status point, whenever someone comes into their house, they will spend like an hour cleaning, preparing, make sure everything is really neat, because people judge others based on that point, and they fear being judged based on what their house looks like, and they want to present that they're doing well, especially middle-class families, of course. They want to show that they're, even with relatively limited means, because you don't have way too much when you're middle class. You have what you need with some luxuries. They like to present it as though they're really well off and they have no worries when it comes to money. And presentation plays a really big part in that. having your house be neat, having everything tidy, having your expensive furniture insofar as you can afford it, stylish looking furniture. So combine that with a child who likes to explore and scratch and make their little cars go over all the furniture and things like that. It's like, what's happening? Because it's disturbing the image of a very well-off type of family. And maybe the weather is a point within that. I mean, people in Spain, because the weather is good, you get to be outside a lot. So when you interact with people and meet them, you're outside. You're at a pub or just on the street, and that's where you interact with other people. Whereas in Belgium, because it's often cold there, you go into another person's house. You don't just, well, you can, and it does happen, but to just, meet someone on the street and talk to them. But it's not like everyone goes out of their house at 7 at night and just like has a little fiesta in town. That doesn't happen. So people go to other people's houses and spend time there. So when a person comes into your house, you feel like you have to now put up a good image so that the other person will accept you. Which is, a whole other can of worms. But definitely something that we noticed changes your relationship to an environment and to what extent you're willing to change your environment for the well-being of a child and to give the child the best support and opportunities to expand himself and learn and grow. Then you have the farm. I haven't talked about the farm yet and what the story is behind that, but you can read about it on the Destiny Farm Facebook page, other areas. In essence, what we do on the farm is specifically look at each one's automated reactions and norms and values that drive our behavior, why we say we like something or don't like something or accept something or not accept something, and to actually investigate, well, why? Where is that coming from? Did I decide that, or did I at some point just accept that because that's what my parents did, or that's what school told me? I mean, have I really investigated that for myself? And within what I accept and allow, am I also considering other people? Because it's easy to say that what I think is important is that my house is neat and everything stays in the right place. But then if you bring a child into the equation, you need to also look at to what extent is that hampering or supporting that child's development. So, the farm is like a different environment altogether because we specifically focus on those questions and specifically push ourselves to create an environment that considers everyone, that considers everyone's needs, and we each individually are very motivated to change ourselves to create that environment. Those are some points that I noticed in relation to Caesar, how a child grows up in different environments, what the underlying factors might be. I'm sure there's many more, but I didn't have enough time to really, go and do a study about it or investigate it or question people about it. But it was definitely because we went from one environment into another environment and then into again another environment. The differences were so stark that it really made you question, like, where is this coming from? Why are there such huge differences? Because people are people and children are children. And a child from Belgium and a child from Spain and a child in South Africa will all naturally behave the same way. So why is it that adults interact so differently with a child's expression, and how is it that it's so different how they try and raise their child, and what is important and what is not important? So those are my 2 cents about that. I'm sure Leila will be writing blogs and also sharing more from her perspective what she has noticed as Caesar's mother. And In my next videos, I'll move on to some other topics about my trip in Belgium, more personal, personal process related, things that I have noticed that I hadn't experienced or seen in a long time because of the specific settings I was in. From the perspective that it was actually a very cool opportunity to be there and be able to face those points. Alright, so I'll see you in my next video. Bye.